Today on Capitol Hill, tensions ran high as FBI Director Kash Patel faced one of the most blistering rounds of questioning yet. Lawmakers zeroed in on a central concern: whether the nation's top law enforcement agency has drifted from independence and become a political weapon.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Meng, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the President's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process, and he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the President sees it, on what the President calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The President calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations. The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the President to go after the President's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges. I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the President is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the President's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the President continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies
So-
list on that book.
so
There are
you-
people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people.
That's good. You
And they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can
changing
read
topics.
about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times. And you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing
Veracity?
perjury. Tell the American
You didn't
people how
know?
I broke the law and committed a felony.
You did
Have the
break-
audacity to actually
No,
put the
all
facts
right, then
forward
the answer is
instead of
both.
lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second
answer
donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
The
men and
answer is
women of
you're
the
failing, not
I
me.
reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say, we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
I thank you. I yield back. Again, this is an unserious moment, sadly, for the FBI. I yield back.
More so for you.
Mr. Strong.
If you find reporting like this helpful, remember to subscribe so you never miss an update. The hearing opened with pointed remarks directed at both Director Patel and the administration that appointed him. Members of Congress highlighted the president's latest FBI budget request, a slim document of just around 120 words, which described the so-called undoing of FBI weaponization as a top priority. But critics argued that the administration's actions tell a far different story. Subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns that help you make sense of the headlines. According to testimony today, rather than restoring independence, the president has embarked on what several lawmakers called a revenge tour, using federal authority to target individuals, universities, and even law firms with executive actions. The accusation is that these moves are less about restoring order and more about asserting control over critics. Some members went even further, pointing to allegations that Immigration and Customs Enforcement has detained U.S. citizens without due process. The committee also raised concerns about the president openly wavering on whether he is obligated to uphold the Constitution, a moment that sent shockwaves through the political world. If you want more context-driven reporting like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Lawmakers turned their attention directly to Director Patel, focusing on his book, Government Gangsters, a controversial work that includes an appendix listing dozens of officials and public figures. Critics have labeled it an enemies list. Patel has insisted the appendix is simply informational, but opponents say the president sees it differently. They highlighted that the president himself praises the book on its cover, calling it a blueprint and a roadmap. In today's hearing, the concern was not the book alone, but what appears to be a pattern, a series of executive orders and FBI investigations that align closely with those listed in that appendix. To understand how political influence shapes federal institutions, hit the subscribe button for deeper reporting. Members of Congress pointed to a recent incident in Wisconsin that reignited fears of politicized law enforcement. According to committee members, an elected judge questioned ICE officers who lacked a judicial warrant. Under long-standing practice, judges are entitled, even obligated, to seek proper documentation before allowing an arrest or detainment. Despite that, the FBI later arrested the judge. When Director Patel posted briefly about the arrest on social media before deleting the message, it raised even more questions about motive and transparency. Critics argued today that a functioning democracy does not detain judges for performing their duties. Stay with us by subscribing for more insights into unfolding legal and constitutional issues. The broader theme emerging from the hearing was the fear that the FBI, an institution designed to operate with disciplined neutrality, has been pulled into political combat. Lawmakers warned that weaponizing federal agencies fractures public trust, suppresses free speech, and punishes dissent. Several members underscored that these trends are not hypothetical. They pointed to real people under investigation, real officials removed from their positions, and real communities left uncertain about the fairness of the justice system. If you value long-form analysis that cuts through confusion, subscribing ensures you always stay informed. In closing, one member reminded Director Patel that she served as an impeachment manager during the former president's second impeachment. She called Patel's tone, his public statements, and his readiness to carry out what the president calls revenge deeply troubling. The concern expressed today was not simply about one leader or one agency, but about the long-term health of American democracy. Moments like these define how power is checked, how institutions endure, and how citizens understand the truth. For ongoing coverage of this historic inquiry and others like it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss the next development.